Are you a podcaster and you currently feel stuck at home during quarantine? Well, stay tuned and we'll change that in a matter of minutes. Hello guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the Productive Quarantine series. My name is SaBine and I am a growth mindset mentor for millennial femtrepreneurs. So usually I have people when it comes to growth mindset and helping them overcome everything that holds them back from building their business and their online empire when it comes to limiting beliefs, building good habits, creating a good vision for themselves and then taking action. But since many of us, myself included, are now currently stuck at home, we have so much extra time and a lot of people also don't really know how to use that extra time efficiently. And that's why I've created this Productive Quarantine series. If this is the first time that you are watching my channel, then first of all, I would like you to consider subscribing, especially if you don't want to miss out on my upcoming growth mindset content. But I also already have created three videos for this series. The first one was about freelancers, the second about entrepreneurs, and then in the last video I gave 23 tips for YouTubers on things that they can do while they are at home in quarantine. And then before we start, I also want to mention two more things. The first one is that I do have a checklist ready. So if you want to download all of the tips that I'm going to give you in this video, then hop on down to my description box where I have a link for you. And also if you want to hear me elaborate on all of those tips a little more, then go to my podcast, which is called the Growth Mindset Hackers, and check out the latest episode. There will also be a link down in the description box. I have subcategorized the video into two categories, and the first one is proactive work. All of the proactive tips that I'm giving you are pretty much tips that will help you move your podcast to the next level very fast. So I have 6 tips here for you, and the first one is for you to really think about your analytics. If you've never given it a lot of thought, which I'm sure you have, I just really want to put it on your plate and want to make you understand that with your analytics you can really get so much information out of your content, whether it being the length, the title, the content itself. And I also want you to consider that there are a lot of really great external tools that you can use that will help you get a better understanding of how your podcast is doing. And now my next 2 tips are kind of linked to that, and that is changing your thumbnails, because a lot of people actually find podcasts also just like YouTube based on their thumbnails. Of course, it always depends on where you are listening to your podcast, but again here, if your thumbnails are not very attractive, then you might want to consider changing them. And that the same goes also for the titles of your podcast episodes, because again here there are so many formulas on titles that work. So also again, consider what is working, which podcast episodes are performing the best, and then change the titles of the ones that are not working as well. Now the next tip is, if people want to get to know you better, then you should really make it as easy for them as possible. So what you want to do is, in the description of your podcast, but also in the description of every podcast episode, you really want to link maybe your socials, your website, products or services that you have, so people will really have a very easy time finding you and connecting with you outside of your podcast. Now my next tip is about your pitch, because eventually you probably want to collaborate with other people, and the easiest way to really get people interested into having a collaboration, maybe an interview with you, is by having a very good, very brief, on-point pitch, both in oral and also in written form. So if you don't already have one, or you think it's a little sloppy, then now use the time in quarantine and really perfect it. And now my last proactive tips on things that you can do right now during quarantine is to look for additional platforms, because there are so many people who are iTunes only or Android only. So what you really want to consider here is that both segments have access to your podcast. And what's really important here for Android users is that there is so many different platforms, and so many different platforms who perform differently for different categories. So depending on the category of your podcast, really make sure that you are on the right platforms and also on as many as you can. So now let's move on to my next category, which is the proactive work. And when we think about proactive work, it's pretty much stuff that you can do right now that will move your podcast further in the long run. So those are all of the things that you can do right now that will bring you success more sustainably. And the first category that I have here is about awareness and sales, in a sense. And the first one is definitely working on your awareness strategy. There is so much free content outside. I just really want to put awareness strategy and having an awareness strategy on your plate. So if you don't know what it actually is, or if you want to know more, then again, listen to my podcast. And also after this video, just check out other videos that will explain what it is and how you can build a very good awareness strategy for yourself. Now, another thing that you might want to consider when it comes to promoting your podcast outside of these podcast platforms is by having a little blog. If you don't have a website, it would be also a smart idea to build one and then just have a little blog, find the good keywords that work well, that rank well, so that people will also find your content if they don't necessarily listen to podcasts. Another tip that I also find really essential and that is also linked to your awareness strategy are cooperations. So eventually it would be really beneficial for you to reach out to other people, maybe have interviews, maybe, appear on other people's podcasts, kind of put yourself into other people's audiences. Reach out to them and then schedule that episode, schedule that interview and make sure that it's going to happen soon, because you're not the only one currently who is stuck at home. Now, my next section of the proactive category is to pre-create content. Now, obviously, I don't have to talk too much about it. Again, I just want to put it on your plate. So here I'm really talking about pre-writing your scripts now as much as you can. If you have a very creative face, then just make sure that you are really writing as many scripts as you can. And then once you have all of those beautiful scripts ready, make sure that you pre-record as much as you can. As long as your vocals really help you and let you record, do it. Batch create as much as you can, and then afterwards you can really spend the time, even if you're just chilling in bed or on the couch watching telly, you can still then batch edit your content. And then again, next tip, upload everything, write your description boxes, get your thumbnails ready. All of those things you can pre-create, and then upload it based on your schedule. And now the final section of the proactive work is about all of your skills and your development, because here again, I think that it is really important. There is so many people who kind of misunderstand the importance of really having your skills on point. Because it's not about, having like the fanciest microphone or like the fanciest editing program when you don't really know how to use your thing. So expensive doesn't equal quality. So my first tip here is to really get to know all of your equipment inside out. Learn the settings of your microphone, learn how your editing program works. Those are like the essential things. And once you have mastered them, once you have really maxed them out, then you can move on and upgrade. And that leads me to the next tip, which is about the skills. So the things that you are doing, or how you are basically translating your skills into the final product. So here we are basically talking about your editing skills. How do you edit your podcast? Do you have an intro, an outro? Do you have music? Do you have different sequences? But also just the editing itself. Do you know a lot about sound editing? Do you know about noise cancelling? Those kind of things. So those are also skills that are really important to have and to know. And one great goal would be to, learn one skill or improve one thing for every single episode. At least that's how I'm doing it. What would also be great is to learn about different podcast techniques, because there is so many different styles of podcasts out there. And I'm pretty sure you have already found your own style, but eventually maybe you want to change something, or you want to have an interview if you never had one. So just to learn about all of those skills and then apply them gradually. Now, my next tip is about your intro. I personally think that intros are very important. I have one myself, but there's again so many things. Is it too long? Is it too short? Is it informative? Are people going to click away from your episode? So think about redoing your intro, skipping it, or just recording a new one. And that's pretty much it. That is all I had to say for today's episode. I really hope you liked it. I really hope I gave you some extra tips on things that you can do now that you are at home in quarantine. If there were some good things, then please let me know down in the comment section so I know that it was a good and helpful video for you. If you want to get to know more about me, then again, I will have all of my socials down below. You can especially follow me on Instagram, because I talk to you guys a lot over there every day on all things growth mindset. Don't forget to download your checklist, and also, like I said, if you want, then hop onto my podcast and listen to the longer version of this video. Now have a productive quarantine, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye guys!